Yes. So let us now understand the working of a parallel plate capacitor. Now these parallel plate capacitors were basically developed to overcome the problems faced by just simple spherical capacitor. So in a single spherical capacitor, the capacity is very less, right? So therefore, in order to, like we had seen, for 1 farad, the size of the capacitor becomes almost the diameter, the radius of earth. So therefore, this was the basic and the most commonly used capacitor, that is a parallel plate capacitor. Now in a parallel plate capacitor, if you would see, you had seen, I have shown you one video before we begin with this. So that is about a capacitor which is being charged, right? And when it gets charged, it develops the charge in it, the charge gets stored in it, and which can be released by connecting a lamp or a resistor across that, where the electrons will get discharged and a circuit will flow through that. In short, a capacitor is a kind of, and you can say like a cell. A cell is like a fully charged capacitor. It is not basically a capacitor. Both of them are two different mechanisms, but the effect is same. A capacitor will also behave like a cell, so that it has got some electrons separated inside that particular element called as capacitor, and when you connect to a circuit, there will be a flow of current. Just try to see this, that we have a capacitor, that is a parallel plate capacitor, and we connect a resistor. So if this plate of the capacitor is positively charged and this is negatively charged, it is something similar to that of a cell. In a cell, how we show this as positive and this as negative, and when there is a resistor R connected to this, there is a flow of current. In this way also there will be a flow of current R, right? Here the battery can give a continuous flow of current, but here as the capacitor starts getting discharged, the current will slowly reduce. The cell also starts getting reduced, but after a long time. So it is sort of similar also, but the mechanism is not the same. We cannot call this capacitor as a cell, and we cannot call a capacitor as a battery, right? But the behavior of that in the electrical environment is the same. Now as you can see from here, when I am having this capacitor, it is fully charged to its optimum capacity. We have just discussed what is an optimum capacity of a capacitor. Beyond that, how much ever charge you try to push in, it is not going to work. Second, in our circular sphere, which we had taken that as a capacitor, we were charging it by some method of induction or by some other method of friction. There are many methods to develop a charge on a body. But here we are not working on electrostatics. When we are using a parallel plate capacitor, with the help of a normal battery DC supply, we can charge a capacitor. That is the advantage of that. Because of the arrangement, it has got two plates. A single sphere cannot be charged by an electrical DC voltage. You have to charge a sphere by using the methods of electrostatic charging methods, and that sphere cannot be used in a circuit because it does not have any other reference for the electrons to flow, or for rather for a current to flow. But here it is like two different plates with two different charges and opposite charges, so there can be a flow of electrons, and the flow of electrons will constitute a current. So let us understand this capacitor, how it is made and how it functions. Before that, let me show you certain behavior of a capacitor before we try to understand what a capacitor is. If we have a capacitor connected to a power supply, if we connect a capacitor to a power supply, if we give a key over here, this is a neutral capacitor, it does not have any charge in it, and this has a voltage V in that. What happens? This is a positive and this is negative. So here, if I close this switch and if I have a galvanometer, a current meter, if I close this switch and if I have a galvanometer, current meter, it is observed that the moment I close the switch, there is a gush of currents. So that means instantaneously the galvanometer will show full current flowing, and slowly the current will start becoming 0. This is the behavior. This is how capacitors behave in the process of charging. What had happened when this was a neutral capacitor, I connected a battery, a source to it, and I closed the key. What happened? There was a sudden increase of current. You have to remember these words, this mechanism throughout your whole 2 years of physics till you give your exams, because this is a very important phenomena, behavior of a capacitor. Before understanding how the capacitor works, I am just explaining to you the application, that how it is going to behave, right? A neutral capacitor, when it is connected to a voltage, initially the voltage across this is 0. The voltage across the capacitor is 0 because there is no charge developed on it. The moment I connect it to a battery, there is a sudden flow of current flowing in the circuit. There is a sudden flow of current flowing in the circuit, and which slowly the current reduces, it becomes 0, and then for a steady time, for an infinite time, you will see there is no flow of current. But what has happened? When the current has become 0, the capacitor is said to be fully charged. The capacitor is said to be fully charged. Now, if I remove this capacitor from this circuit, this charge will be maintained in that capacitor. I can take this charge capacitor anywhere and I can discharge it by connecting to any resistor, or if I connect it to a lamp, the lamp will glow instantaneously for some time, and slowly as the charge reduces, the lamp will become off. Correct? So this is the basic what I would say the application of a capacitor. What I showed you was charging, and later on when it is connected to a lamp, I explained to you what is discharging. So a capacitor is charged and then it is discharged. That is why you see a flash of light. In fact, if you have seen cameras, right? In cameras there is a flashlight. Okay, in that flashlight, what happens? There is a huge capacitor connected to that. After a photograph is clicked, the battery of the camera starts charging a capacitor, and the lamp is connected through the switch click of the camera. So when you click that, the capacitor discharges so instantaneously, a huge current flows through the filament of the bulb, so much huge current flows through that the light is very bright, and the current is so high, right? It gives a high intensity of light for a fraction of a second. The discharge takes place that quickly, and that is why you see a flash. The flash is nothing but a capacitor is getting discharged, and so there is a gush of current that flows through the bulb, which flashes, and slowly it becomes 0 because the capacitor is now fully discharged. Then again, for the next roll, the capacitor charges that the battery will again charge the capacitor to a value, and again when you click that, it gets discharged through the lamp, and there is a tremendous glow of light, and which is used for flashlights. Okay, so that is one of the way where you would have seen the mechanism of charging and discharging of a capacitor, right? Now in this particular part, as you can see, in this particular part, as you can see, when I was charging, there is sudden gush of current that is flowing through that, right? And slowly after some time the current becomes 0. So what is the definition of a capacitor? Initially the voltage is 0. When the instant I connect to this, the voltage here was 0 because the capacitor was not charged, and the current which was flowing through was a full-fledged current flowing through that circuit, which slowly starts becoming 0 as the capacitor starts getting charged. Means in a capacitor the current starts flowing first, and then the voltage is developed, and when the voltage is developed, the current is 0. This is the situation which you should remember in the capacitor, right? So in that, the current is leading the voltage. That means when you connect a capacitor, discharge capacitor to a voltage, there is a gush of current, after which slowly the current becomes 0, and when the current becomes 0, the plates are fully charged with positive and negative. Okay. Now when there is a flow of current, when there is a flow of current, why there is a flow of current, there is no connection between these two plates. As you can, when I told you, when you on the capacitor, suddenly you will see a current flowing because the ammeter will show there is a current flowing. But how will current flow? Does the electron jump from here to here? There is no jumping of electron, but still there is a flow of current. It's a very unusual phenomena. You understand? For me to complete a circuit, normally I require a resistor. This is like an open switch, no? There is nothing in between this. There is air in between these two plates. When there is air between these two plates, how will the electrons move from one plate to another? And what was the current? How did the current flow in such a situation? Is something which we need to understand how this component called as capacitor actually works, right, in the circuits. So that is now we are going to understand the working of a capacitor. So to understand the working of a capacitor, you need to consider two different plates. So let us draw two different plates in to resemble a capacitor. So this would be, suppose, one plate. I am showing some thickness to the plate. Normally the plate will be very thin. It will not be let us connect a positive and a negative to two different, these both of them are metallic plates. And as you know, being a metallic plates, both the plates will have abundance of electrons in them. Electrically they will be neutral, once again I am repeating, but there will be free electrons in the outermost orbit who are indisciplined. They don't remain attached in the outermost orbit, they keep on wandering and they go and occupy someone else's outermost valence band, sit there for some time, again move out, and that is how they keep on wandering, because the force of attraction of that outermost orbital electrons and the nuclear, the charge influence is very less, very weak, and so they do not come so much in the influence of the nucleus, but yet they are electrically neutral because number of electrons are maintained equal to the number of protons of that metal. Now when I give a positive potential to this plate, what is going to happen is that all the electrons in this plate will get accumulated on this side of this plate because of the positive charge, will get accumulated on this side of the plate because of the positive charge. Similarly, all the positive charge of this plate will get attracted over here. Once again, like I said, there is nothing like a positive charge, that is a absence of negative charge in here, which means because of this negative charge the electrons will get repelled on this surface of this plate. So this surface will have developed a negative charge, So by doing this, there are two plates which are widely kept apart, and one part is connected to positive, one part is connected to the negative, but still in this particular case there is no flow of current, right, because this positive charge is not powerful enough to pull the electron towards itself, and this negative charge is not sufficient to deposit the electron from here to this positive plate. You are getting me? So therefore in this situation there is no flow of current. But when this particular plate is brought closer to this plate, if is brought closer to this plate, then what happens? The negative surface of this particular plate, this part is the negative surface of this plate, and this is your positive charge on this particular plate. This is the positive charge, this is the negative charge. So this negative charge is going to push this, and this positive charge is going to pull it towards itself. As a result, what happens? There is a flow of electrons in this direction towards the positive terminal of the cell, and one electron which goes inside this cell, there is one electron which goes and gets neutralized on this particular part to get accumulated on this side of this plate. So this negative electron will enter into this particular plate, where one electron is removed and it goes into this cell. One electron will go and get accumulated in this plate because of the positive charge which is going to attract the electron inside this plate. This positive charge will do what? This battery also consists of positive and negative electrons which are separated. So as one electron comes over here, it gets enough when it is connected over here. Now this plate will be connected over here. Now this plate will not be there because I have brought this closer to this particular part. So this positive charge is enough to get for this electron to get attracted and to come inside this plate. So when one electron is introduced in this plate starts acquiring a negative charge, and when the electron is being removed from this plate starts acquiring a positive charge, which otherwise was neutral, and this process starts with millions of electrons in the first phase, right? There are lakhs of electrons which are removed from this plate which goes inside the cell, and that many electrons they come from this cell and get deposited on this plate, right? So when an electron gets deposited on this plate, slowly this plate will start getting only negatively charged. It will start getting negatively charged on both the surfaces, and this plate, when all the electrons will go away from this plate will develop a positive charge. This plate will develop a positive charge on both the surfaces. When all the free electrons of this plate has it is not all the free electrons, depending upon the capacity. We had talked about the saturation capacity of a battery for a given voltage. There is some capacity beyond which this capacitor cannot give electrons. It does not mean that it does not have more electrons to give and all the electrons are over. The amount of electrons which can be given for circulation depends upon the value of voltage, because we had seen capacitance was charge accumulated per given volt. If I reduce my volt, the capacitance will increase. If I reduce my voltage, the capacitance will increase. So when the capacitance increases, more electrons will flow. From where do these new electrons come? So the electrons are there, but for a given voltage, suppose only 2 lakh electrons are going to be circulated, so there will not be 2 lakh 1 electron. When I change the voltage, maybe the 2 lakh can get reduced to 1.5 lakh, or it can get increased to 2.5 lakh, depending upon the value of this voltage, right? So that is the basic understanding of the definition of a capacitor, which is charge, which it says that capacitor is equal to charge per voltage, the amount of plus q charge over here and minus q charge is developed over here. So we just consider one value of the charge, say q, amount of charge per the voltage that is developed across this plate. So this plate will also develop a voltage between both the plates, potential difference between both the plates, which will be equal to the potential of the battery. This V and this V will be the same, right? When a capacitor is connected parallel to a power supply. Are you getting this basic concept of how a capacitor gets charged? So here in this mechanism, as you can see, when I connect this in the initial state, if there is an ammeter, because both the plates are neutral, there is, and they are brought to a distance which is a very comparable distance. Then by changing the distance, the capacitance will also going to change, right? But for a given distance, the distance will decide, no, the force. This positive charge is attracting the electron, this negative charge is pushing the electrons. So if I keep this more closer, maybe more electron will flow through that, right? So if the distance is kept more wide, so less electrons will flow through that, in spite of the fact that the plate has got lot of electrons. That will be decided upon the distance d between the two plates and the voltage V, that how much electrons should move in the circuit and by how much charge the plates or the capacitor is going to be charged, right? But basically, though none of the electrons they cross, it is a mechanism that one electron enters inside this cell and one electron leaves inside the cell. The cell has got no brains, it feels the same electron has come back. So a circuit is complete. According to the cell, whenever an electron leaves and one electron comes back, it says the current is complete. And the current is complete depending upon not how much electrons have left, it depends upon how much electrons have come. Maybe while leaving 1 lakh electrons have gone, but receiving only 50 electrons have come. So current will be constituted for the 50 electrons and not for 1 lakh electrons, right? So in this particular situation also, when the electrons they come inside the cell and equal number of electrons leave from that cell, so the plates are equally but oppositely charged because of this mechanism, and this is the mechanism through which a capacitor gets charged. And this is the reason why initially there is a gush of current, and slowly as the number of electrons comes into saturation, that no further electron can be substituted in this plate, the capacitor gets saturated and the flow of electrons reduces, and then there is no any flow of electrons, so it is silence. But in this silence, what happens? Our capacitor is fully charged with some energy. So in short, some part of this energy has now gone in charging the capacitor. It does not come free. As in physics, nothing is free. All energy is converted from one form to another. So therefore, when this capacitor is charged, certain amount of energy has been spent from the cell in order to charge the capacitor, and within the battery also those many number of electrons have got discharged. So the battery has got discharge. You cannot keep on charging a capacitor infinitely. So whenever certain 20 lakh electrons are there in a cell, when in one charging 1 lakh electrons are transferred to the capacitor, so 20 lakh will get reduced to 19 lakhs. So next charge another 1 lakh. So 19 times a capacitor can be charged by a cell. Ultimately it's just a matter of conversion of energy, and then the battery also will get discharged and the capacitor also will get discharged, right? So ultimately the cell can hold lot of electrons in that, and a capacitor holds temporary for that particular value. Here it is given by the relation because of this mechanism of keeping the two plates parallel and very close to each other. Because of the push and pull effect, there is a flow of electron, but none of the electron will ever jump from this plate to other plate. In the resistance, actually the same electron moves and comes back to that particular cell, and so we say there is a current. But in a capacitor, the electron travels only from here to here, the other electrons travel from here to here, right? But it seems as though there is a current flow, because actually the electron is coming in, one electron is going out, so the ammeter knows the circuit is complete, and so the current has flown. Of course, the current is not steady state like resistor. The current flows continuously in a resistor. Here it will shoot up initially, and slowly it will come down, and it will perfectly become zero, as though it is now an open circuit, like there is a gap in the circuit, no? Like how an open switch works, where there is no flow of current. In the same way a capacitor will behave after it is fully charged. So a capacitor has got two a capacitor has got two phases. One phase is a charging phase, that is from time t equal to 0 to certain time t it takes to charge a capacitor. The second phase is a charged capacitor. It remains charged throughout its life. If I remove the capacitor from the circuit, the charge inside will remain in it for years together, right? So the charge will not get discharged unless and until you connect a resistor across that, by which you give a path to the electrons to flow, thus discharging that capacitor. Got it? So this is the way how this mechanism of a capacitor works. Now let us try to see and find an equation that like when after studying lens we had done an equation for lens maker's equation. So this will be a capacitor maker's equation, an equation by which a capacitor is manufactured, an equation by which a capacitor is manufactured. Now that is what we will see in the next session, if you have understood this concept of charging of a capacitor. So let us continue with the same diagram and try to give some parameters to this capacitor. Let this capacitor, the plates have, each plate let it have an area A. So we know that if I have an increased area, so the number of electrons will be more. So the capacitance has to increase if the charge will increase, no? If the area is more, definitely more the area, more electrons will be accommodated in that particular area. So let us give this both the plates, both the plates have the same area A, and let them be separated by a distance d. Let them be separated by a distance d, is the distance by which they are separated. Now when we are using this, there is one equation that we had done in the Gaussian surface, theory of Gaussian surface, that we had seen a plate which was full of charge. If you remember this equation, there was a plate which was full of charge, and at a particular point P outside the plate, what was the electric intensity due to that charged plate? It was a positive charge plate on both the side, and the intensity here E was given as 1/2 I would say surface charge density upon epsilon naught. If you remember this equation, this was E was what? E was the electric intensity which was radiated by this plate. So just outside this plate, the electric intensity was given as 1/2 sigma upon epsilon naught, where sigma was nothing but, sigma was what? Is the surface charge density, that is amount of charge per unit area. What is sigma? Surface charge density, sigma is Q upon area. Amount of charge in a unit area is a surface charge density. You had a linear charge density, remember, you had volume charge density, that is charge per unit volume, linear charge density, charge per unit length. Similarly, surface charge density is amount of charge per given unit area. Okay, so this was the surface charge density and this was the equation given to that. Now this half is the intensity because of one plate. Half is the intensity because of one plate. So suppose if there is any given point P over here, this plate will have one intensity. Let me call this intensity as E1. This is the intensity because of the positive plate, and the arrow will point towards going out of the plate because it's a positive plate. Similarly, this is a negative charge. Here the intensity will be going inside this, which is going to be E2. Intensity will be shown as going inside the plate, no? Inside the plate. Why? It is a negative plate. In the negative charge, the electric lines of force will always end on a negative charge, where from the positive charge they will start moving out from the positive charge. That is why E1 is being shown moving out, and E2 is the electric intensity because of this plate, which is shown moving in. So the total intensity in this plate, total intensity within this plate will be equal to E1 plus E2. E1 is the intensity because of the positive charge, E2 is the intensity because of the negative charge, and both of them will have the same direction, because for the positive charge the intensity will be going out, that is for E1, and for E2 it will be shown as going inside this. So it can be shown this way, intensity is going inside, but if you see the arrow of both of them, they are pointing towards the same direction, therefore the total intensity will be E1 plus E2. So this will be the E1 plus E2 intensity, and so E1 is given as 1/2, so it will be, and both the value of intensity will be the same because the surface charge density sigma is same for both of them. So it is going to be half sigma upon epsilon, that is half sigma upon epsilon naught plus half sigma upon epsilon naught, which will give me sigma upon epsilon naught as the electric intensity inside this plate due to the charge on both the plates. So I have got the value of electric intensity, which gives me sigma upon epsilon naught. What is it? It is sigma upon epsilon naught. Now I have to use two more equations. Here I have not yet rubbed this equation. Why? I wanted to show you the reference of these equations in all our derivations that we will be doing over here. So here let us see that voltage is equal to work done upon charge, and work done is equal to F upon R. So voltage will be equal to F into R upon Q, and F is equal to E into Q. So this is E into Q into R upon Q. So ultimately V is equal to E into R. So this is one of the derived equation from the other two equations, that voltage is equal to electric intensity into the distance between them. Voltage is equal to the electric intensity into the distance between them. So here we have a potential. So we have V equal to the electric intensity E into the distance, that is D, between them. Is that clear? So this is one more equation that we have derived for this capacitor. The first equation was this. This is my second equation, right? So therefore I can write this as E equal to V upon D, that is still my second equation, and this equal to sigma upon epsilon. So equating both of them, I can say sigma upon epsilon naught equal to V upon D. Sigma upon epsilon equal to V upon D. There is one more equation which we had done, in which the definition of the capacitance is used. What is capacitance? Capacitance is amount of charge upon voltage. So therefore voltage will be equal to Q upon C. So voltage will be equal to Q upon C. So this will be my third equation. If I substitute in this equation, it will become sigma upon epsilon equal to Q upon C into D. Q upon C into D. Now what is sigma? Sigma, I know it is charge upon area. So it will be Q upon area into epsilon naught equal to Q upon C into D. My Q and Q will get cancelled, and I will have C equal to A epsilon naught upon D, and this is the equation. This is the equation, derived equation of a capacitance, parallel plate capacitance, having each an area A separated by a distance D, and epsilon naught is the permittivity constant of vacuum. So it's a constant of permittivity. So this is the relation of the capacitance with the area of the plate and the distance D. Like I said, this is a capacitor manufacturer's equation. When a capacitor is being manufactured, so he uses these parameters to design or make a capacitor of a given value, correct? So this is where we are going to start with the concept of capacitor. We had seen what is capacitance in terms of charge. We had seen what is the equation of a spherical capacitor, 4 pi epsilon naught r, that we had seen in the last session. Now here we have derived the equation of a parallel plate capacitors. These are the only two capacitors that will be used for your exams, and there are still two more types of capacitors. One is a spherical capacitor, but spherical capacitor means two spheres, one inside another. So they are actual parallel plate capacitors. So in parallel plate capacitors there are different types. One is a parallel plate capacitor. Second capacitor which is there is like you have one sphere inside and another sphere inside. So this will be considered as a negative potential, and this will be considered as a positive potential. So there is one sphere inside, another sphere inside. So if this is positive, it generates a positive charge on both the surfaces, the inside surface as well as the outside surface, and this negative charge will develop a negative surface on the inside as well as outside. So this way you have a spherical capacitor, and a cylindrical capacitor is a cylinder inside and a cylinder outside. So the inside cylinder will be having maybe a negative charge, and the outside cylinder will be having a positive charge. So all these three are different types of capacitors. One is in the first session I have shown only one whole sphere as a capacitor. Now this is called a spherical capacitor, where there is one thin shell of a sphere and inside there is one more thin shell, and here there is a cylindrical shape, and inside there is another cylindrical shape. They are separated by equal distance. That is more important in all these capacitors, right? But these two capacitors right now are not there in your syllabus for solving the equations. It will be there for only the advanced part of that. So right now just understand that these two capacitors exist along with this parallel capacitor, and this is going to be the equation for a capacitor. Write down one more equation variation of this, that C can be written as A upon D by epsilon naught. I have just rearranged this equation, and I will remind you that why did I make you write this equation of capacitor in this particular form. There is a reason why it has to be written in this format, and that reason I will explain to you when we will be solving the problems based on capacitor. Okay, so till then just make a note of this and write this down, the equations that we have derived now.